So we are just under 3 weeks away from Cyberpunk 2077 releasing, and it feels like it's been an eternity since this game was announced. I mean, it was at the beginning of last generation now with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One that we heard about it, and then it went into like full-scale production and development after The Witcher 3 was completed. At least that's according to CD Projekt Red. And as we kind of started to expect after we heard about its PKG leaking online, although in an encrypted state still, it has leaked. Cyberpunk 2077 appears to be getting out there, and it almost looks like it might be due to retailers getting these copies out a bit earlier than they should. It's hard to say where this game is exactly leaking out, but it seems to have, because we also have gameplay that's appeared online. I told you guys I would keep you up to date on this situation after we talked about it in Newswave, because several of you seemed very concerned that this would be a massive thing ahead of launch, and I have to say, I think it might be very difficult to avoid some of these spoilers as we get closer to its launch. Guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure the like button down below. And if you're new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe. Now, normally we'd have Tech Wave on Sundays, but I was doing some testing for the next Tech Wave, and it took longer than I thought it would, and I'm still doing some tests. It has to do with heat on the PlayStation 5, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to have different scenarios tested, so I went a little further with it, and that video will come out hopefully in the coming days. We'll see how all that goes, but I think it'll be very interesting to a lot of you to see how hot the PlayStation 5 gets inside and how far you may have to go to even be able to overheat it, if it's even possible, without doing things like unplugging the fan. So let me take you over here to the subreddit, where it appears that someone working in retailer or at like a warehouse actually had the Cyberpunk 2077 box in front of them. And you can see it here. This is for the PlayStation 4. And it even says in the box there's some extras, which is kind of cool. I mean, we figured that CD Projekt Red would probably do this. They'd probably include extra things with a game that's been delayed several times now. And they're also putting it on 2 different Blu-ray discs. That's something we talked about prior. Most likely because they don't feel like having a big download, although interestingly enough, it sounds like there will still be a big download with a day 1 patch that they themselves have said that they are working on. Either way, at least the whole game will be inside of this case here with 2 Blu-rays totaling about 70 gigabytes according to the back of this box, and it does talk about the PlayStation 5 upgrade being available on the front. So what happened was last night, it seemed, there was a big gameplay stream that took place on the PlayStation 4, specifically as a person actually streamed from their PlayStation 4, went live with Cyberpunk 2077, and it surprised everyone because when they first started streaming, they had like 2 people watching, and then all of a sudden it continued to grow and grow and grow as people started to hear that a person was playing Cyberpunk early, and a lot of people were trying to figure out how it was possible. Well, after finding out more and more about this, it does seem that retailers are getting Cyberpunk a little earlier than even I would expect, and I thought about this a little bit. It kind of makes sense because of the timing for Cyberpunk. Now, remember, this game was technically gold before this last delay, so they were probably ready to print and put discs out there in cases and send them out to the stores earlier as it was, but because now it's coming out in the first half of December, they are going to be dealing with heavy amounts of traffic for shipping, with Black Friday having just ended when they would have normally been sending it out, and all of the holiday restocks and other things that will take place. So I figure to avoid any type of delays with shipping, because this is something I would have to deal with, can we get stuff in time as we get closer and closer to, Christmas, and then you get the post-holiday shopping and all this, and it was a nightmare to figure all of that out. I understand why they might want to ship the game out a little earlier to warehouses and retailers, maybe a week or 2 earlier than they figured. Now, normally retail stores will get games a week early, and they'll be street dated. And it also depends on how big of a release it is for how much focus they'll put on security and all of this with the game. When Halo 3 first came out, I remember this, it went to GameStop's like 2 weeks early, and they made people at the stores put like actual tarps over the pile of Halo 3 games because they didn't even want anyone to accidentally walk through and see it if you open the door to the back. What they showed in the stream, it was like a 20-minute stream, but there wasn't enough to really spoil anything. It took them about 20 minutes to do roughly 5 to 6 minutes of the opening bit of the game. And I checked it out just to see what was in the stream. And the one thing I took away from it, it appeared to be the PlayStation 4. I think it was the PlayStation 4 base model, but I guess they didn't specify too much, is that it ran pretty well on the PS4. And that was the big concern we all have, because we heard these rumors and stories about how the base consoles from this past generation with the PS4 and the Xbox One could have been causing some development issues. And then they even mentioned themselves, CD Projekt Red, that they were focusing QA heavily on those systems, that it ran fine on next generation platforms of the PS5 and the Xbox Series systems. But those last gen ones need a little bit of a cleanup or a touch up. And I guess this gameplay that was posted also didn't have the patch that CD Projekt Red has been talking up this whole time. So while I saw gameplay that seemed to run well enough with some minimal pop-in and, longer load times, it didn't seem that bad after all the talking about it. The gameplay is getting ripped down all over YouTube if it gets put up, but there are some places that are still hosting it currently, and while there's not a lot of spoilers there, I get why, because there's a lot of people who want to go in to this knowing as least amount as possible, want to go in completely blind. So I guess the one good piece of news here is that this does not appear to be something distributed online like that PKG file has been figured out, because as soon as these games seem to kind of find its way online and leaked out that way, and they can be distributed very, very easily, that's when things get kind of crazy and out there online, where you see this game everywhere because everyone's playing through it on their hacked or modified PlayStation system. At least here it seems like one person got the game early and they're just kind of playing it on stream for about 20 minutes. But now, to me, it does seem like this is when we start to hear about the game being dumped online and then distributed. That happens with the Switch all the time. We hear about a copy breaking retail street date, and then all of a sudden it shows up online and everyone starts downloading it and playing it. So this, to me, feels like the calm before the storm. This feels like, all right, the game can get out there. It's showing up at retailers. Is it going to start showing up online in a hacked format where it's downloadable and then playable? Because that is when you want to go dark immediately online when it comes to Cyberpunk. Start muting words and be very careful, because like I said, it's a game that's been built up for so long now. It'd be a shame to have it spoiled like a week before it comes out. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Be careful online with Cyberpunk 2077, and here's hoping you can avoid any of the spoilers that I'm sure will be popping up over the next 2 weeks. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.